Selamat sejahtera dan selamat sepup. You may notice that today I'm without hat and I also have this brand new little set of shades right here. I have a couple of them actually, including this one right here, which I probably will not be wearing all at the same time because otherwise I'm not going to be able to function. But yeah, here's yet another. Anyway, I was invited by Prof. Tajuddin to have a chat with UCSI students, and he asked me a pretty interesting question which I thought to make into a full video, and that is, what is your podcast about in relation to rebuilding Malaysia? What a fun question. But honestly also, one I think that you almost have to be a little bit delulu in order to answer, because what does it actually mean to rebuild Malaysia?
Also, if you only have 20k subscribers, can you really be rebuilding Malaysia?
You know, in Malaysia we get this theme coming up time and time again. There's like Facebook groups dedicated to revamping, rebuilding, improving the Malaysian education system. A famous YouTuber talks about rebuilding Malaysia. My take on it, I almost feel like the word rebuilding doesn't really apply. Realistically speaking, Malaysia is only about 60 years. If you compare that to the civilizations of India and China and the thousands of years of history of those nations, then you'll see that time-wise, we do not hold a candle to them. To America, which have a couple of 100 years on Earth, we are still babies finding our feet. And frankly, the fact that some of y'all talk about rebuilding Malaysia to be better, as if your era and your generation was so much better than ours, so much more muhibah. You had better English, you had a better life, everything was wonderful, pie in the sky, is frankly insulting to me. Because frankly, you did not. You came together as part of a historical accident, you were brought together, you started chasing your ambitions on your own terms, and then some of you started acting smart, superior, cannot tolerate others, insist on trying to police other people constantly because you thought that that was right and everybody else was wrong. You tried to evolve. Some parts of you became better, other parts worse, but somehow you are still caught in that fixed image of yourself as being the best in the world, when in reality, there's nothing in the world that shows that you actually are. If you want to talk about how you have something special, sebab kenapa gagal BI, sebab kami orang Melayu and stuff like that, doesn't really make sense to me. Because let's be real, Malaysia is a place of different races, religions, types of people, but also philosophies. And I think if every single person out there is just fighting for their own cultural narrative cause, believing in flying, Malays, shipbuilding, or taking part in Type C, Type I games constantly, I don't think that's conducive to building a Malaysia that we're proud of, let alone rebuilding something that had never really existed before. So to me, I don't think there's really a concept of rebuilding Malaysia. I think you should be asking about what it means to actually build Malaysia. In his 1882 lecture,
Title, What is a Nation?
the late philosopher Ernst Renan said that a nation is not just an entity based on race, language, religion, or geography, but it's more of like a collective that has a shared past of memories and sufferings, and this actual wish to live together, to thrive together, to not be forcing people to conform to one specific image or another, but just to be able to hang out and enjoy the same public space without fighting over things that are frankly stupid and meaningless. And I think that once you finally succeed at getting all the people of Malaysia, regardless of race and religion, to be able to do that no matter where it is that they go, and to willingly spend time with one another without trying to force one another to either conform or assimilate or to follow arcane rules because you are too weak-minded to accept that they can and should be themselves in front of you, then and only then do I really feel confident in saying that we will have successfully built Malaysia. And from there, we can do much better things together. And I think that's one of the good things about having spaces like these, podcasts like these. You can consider ideas, thoughts, perspectives that maybe you would have never thought about on your own. And for me, finding those things is a big part of my muse, to try to understand the world better on my own terms, and to also learn, not just for myself, or from like different silos here and there, but from the entire world. Which is also why I enjoy making these videos, learning about different things in depth, and reading all of your comments one after another to try and get a better and better read on the world every day. It's not really rebuilding Malaysia in that sense, but it's more of like building up a more educated civil society so that people can question, persoalkan, and really be able to challenge authority with facts, figures, data, and evidence. That's why I want for Malaysia as a whole that you end up with a country not of idiots, but actually people who know how to read things, who appreciate the nuances, conditions, problems, alternate ways of looking at things. And I want to live in a country where more people are capable of doing that, rather than a society where everybody talks about extraneous and frankly useless things like race, religion, and all that nonsense which they have been indoctrinated into, brainwashed to cling to, and that frankly I think we would be much better off without. By my professional opinion, as a guy who makes videos in his room, I think what's cool about the conversation that we're having right now is that all of you can listen to what's going on, and all of you can come up with that one single idea that you think is going to start making Malaysia a better place. And I think starting that conversation and having people just come in one after another and listen to that is where you're going to get better ideas through the conversations, through the comments, through the spaces that you maybe would never have had if you just sat in your silos, understanding that you have a real life human being and an actual community of people who think in a similar way as you, I think, is kind of nice. And on my part, I tend to talk about things in a very unfiltered, no-holds-barred way, which I think is kind of needed in a modern democratic society, especially when it comes to the issues of the day. I'm sure a lot of people would prefer for a person to be more deferential and say, oh, everything happens for a reason, you tak involved, sebab tu you tak tahu. But should the only people talking about society be the people involved in specific projects, works, narratives, or even politics? No, I don't think so. Because Malaysia is a country of over 35 million people, maybe even 36. And at the end of the day, you want people to develop an interest in shaping the kind of place that you want. And if this video and my other videos can help contribute towards that, then I think that means I've done a good thing. But yeah, what do you think? Have a great one ahead, and I will see you in the next video.